Here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation. Monday Night Knicks. Another edition of the Quarantine Stream. CP from Knicks Fan TV. My man J. Ellis from the Nick of Time Show. Two special guests tonight, J. Ellis. Number one, we got Alex Wolf for Posting and Toasting and SI Knicks. And on the line, making his four-time appearance, J. Ellis. On the show is Marc Berman of the New York Post. Mark, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. I have 4-time. It sounds pretty good.
Exactly, man. You're moving into alumni status. Thanks again for joining us. Let's get right into it. You know, obviously there's not much basketball going on right now. Not sure if a season's going to be played, but you have been the hardest working man on the beat. And this week, you released an article stating that Scott Perry will most likely be retained as the GM at least through the draft. What do you gain? Was the thinking behind this? And is Perry in it for a lame duck stint, or could he possibly be brought back after the draft?
Yeah, I think everything is fluid there because one source I also quoted saying that Leon is still going to do his due diligence. So I think, right now things are going well between Scott and Leon, and they have video conference meetings with Scott and some of the scouts with Leon about the draft. Scott has known Leon for many years, and as has been reported, Scott has known Wesley for, a long, long time, and Wesley and Leon are buddies, so I think they really want to give Scott a chance. Mills is gone, obviously, but Scott, is a survivor. He's had a lot of jobs around the league, back from Detroit and Orlando, Seattle, Sacramento. So he's a good guy, and he gets along well with the other GMs around the league, and he's experienced, and that's what Leon needs.
In terms of, they also are in the process of finalizing a deal with Brock Aller from the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do you see his role being with this new group?
Well, someone called him like a chief of staff. I think his title will be a vice president of strategy, and again, Leon is so inexperienced as a rookie president, and Brock Aller has been with the Cavaliers since 2014 as a capologist, financial guy, and he's been Dan Gilbert's right-hand guy even before that. I think, unfortunately, in these horrible times, teams are facing economic crisis, no revenue coming in, and Aller is a financial guy, and I think he's going to try to restructure the front office, and I hate to say, but I think some guys could lose their jobs, just budget cuts. The Knicks have, I'm told that Leon sees a lot of fat in the organization, and there may be some guys who don't stick around because they don't produce enough value, under these times where James Dolan is not making a penny. The players will get also salary cuts. So I think there'll be some financial cutting going on. But, just to reorganize the financial stuff. He's not a basketball guy. He's a finance guy, great with a cap. And, I think Leon needs help in restructuring this whole organization in terms of the basketball operations.
Very interesting start, man. One of the other positions that obviously would be important going into the draft is the coach. Is it going to be Mike Miller? Obviously, we've heard Tibbs is the hot candidate. What are you hearing lately in terms of the Knicks coaching search?
Yeah, if there was no pandemic, I think Thibodeau was the number one candidate for sure, and I think they would have looked at even Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, maybe Kenny Atkinson, maybe even Jason Kidd. A lot of uncertainty now with the season. Are they going to have a season? When will the season start? And so it just puts Leon in such a tough spot where he does have a guy in Mike Miller who did pretty decent in an interim role. and he's got a whole coaching staff, and there's some stability there. And under these uncertain times, maybe it's more prudent just to bring the staff back for one more season before making major changes. Hopefully, maybe Thibodeau also is still a free agent next summer as well. There should be some jobs open for Tom, but who knows? If the season's canceled, maybe Philly doesn't make a move with Brett Brown. Maybe there's not a chance for Thibodeau in another spot. Maybe most teams keep their coaches if the season doesn't continue on. But Miller, we did something a few days ago, the case to bring back Mike Miller. Obviously, he gave some structure to the defense. Yeah. They seemed to be not all scrambling around. I mean, there were some terrible nights. Don't get me wrong, but but you know how Fizdale was. I mean, what happened was their strategy was let's switch on everything, and it became a mad scramble sometimes, and someone was always left open. And I felt with Miller, they weren't switching as much, and I thought there was more stability back there, and the statistics back it up. And offensively, Miller realized we're not a great three-point shooting team, so let's try to get the ball in the paint. And the Knicks points in the paint per 100 possessions, I believe under Miller, they were number one in the league, and he played to their strengths. So he definitely impressed a lot of people. And when you have Jeff Van Gundy rave about the guy, I mean, that's just to me a wonderful endorsement that Jeff loves this guy. They work together at Team USA. So, I think he's got a chance. I thought there was no chance whatsoever if, the coronavirus didn't stop the world.
Yeah, this thing is definitely impacting so many facets of the game, but most importantly, got to make sure everybody stays healthy. On the draft, we all know that the point guard is a glaring need on this team. Obviously, with this draft, we see it could be about 5 to 6 candidates deep in terms of a starting quality point guard. How much do you think they're prioritizing getting the point guard in the draft? Obviously we've heard about the Chris Paul potential trade rumors. You have a Van Fleet that's out there in free agency, although Toronto can always up his deal. How much do you think they're prioritizing the point guard in the draft over the other options?
It's a tough call for Leon. Obviously, before he got here, and we had written it, the scouts were told, we want to beef up the backcourt and get a scoring point guard. So look, let's zero in on that for the lottery pick, and we still need backcourt help in terms of a shooting guard who can shoot 3-point shots as opposed to R.J. Barrett. So unfortunately, this draft is a lot of point guards, but each one of them seems to have some flaws. It would have been wonderful if Cole Anthony had a stronger season and looked more of a point guard. I mean, he doesn't really create for he doesn't make other people better. Otherwise, he's a scoring point guard, and you think that would be a great pick if they stick at 6. But there's question marks about Cole. Halliburton looks like a very creative playmaker. But he may not be able to get to the basket in the NBA. He's a pretty good 3-point shooter, and I like him. And we spoke to Seth Greenberg of ESPN, and he thinks the Knicks should really take him because of his basketball IQ. They need a game manager, sort of like Payton, but Payton is such a brutal outside shooter that he's terrible, just not a starter.
Yeah, the offense is just terrible.
I mean, listen, he's a backup point guard. And Knicks need to draft a point guard who one day is going to be their starter, or even as a rookie. I think that's the priority. But if they fall in love with, say a Denis, I can't pronounce his last name, but the kid from Israel, Avdia, he's not a great. He's a very good shooter, but not a great shooter. Small forward, playmaker. There's a lot of skill there. Fran Fraschilla, when you talk to him, he says, listen, the Knicks should just pick the best player available in this type of draft. No one really stands out. and then with the next pick, maybe go point guard. And he was thinking Kira Lewis, but it looks like the Knicks would have to trade up from 27 to get Lewis. So listen, it's definitely a priority for this franchise, but maybe Leon thinks they're going to make a trade for Chris Paul, so then you don't need to draft one. There's so many factors, but I do think at 27, the Knicks have a real chance of moving up a little bit and getting a really good player with that second pick, because I think teams are going to, Dolan could give you a couple $1 million in a transaction. And in these economic times, teams might say, all right, we'll move back 6 spots and, get the $2 million and Dallas's first-round pick or something. So I think the Knicks have a real shot of moving up at 27, and really landing a player that could be in the rotation next season.
Good. Yeah, and as you said, with the financial flexibility that they have in these times, it could play out into their favor. We talked about Chris Paul as a potential name. We do know that the Knicks have a lot of flexibility in terms of the capital and the draft assets over the next 4 years. Is there any other name that you can think of that Leon may be high on bringing to the Knicks in terms of trading some of these draft assets to make a move next year?
I mean, we've written about it since Christmas that the big strategy, because of free agency being such a dud in 2020, is they are eyeing the landscape for that disgruntled star who wants to be traded. And obviously there's two guys who are from Creative Artist Agency who could want to get out of their situation. We know of Mitchell with Utah, and we've written about Karl Anthony Towns, who's a guy who grew up a Knicks fan in Central Jersey, and they did get D'Lo for him, but he had obviously the family tragedy, so I don't know where his mind is if he does want to go back home at this point. But listen, the Knicks are definitely looking to make a big trade. There's no doubt about it. They realize free agency is going to be difficult in 2020. They've seen some of the recent free agents not wanting to play in New York anyway. So, if they could land, and they have a lot of assets, I have to give them credit. I have to give Steve Mills some credit, and, he gets no credit, but he did have their cap in order, and he has a lot of young assets. Those Dallas 2 first-round picks are definitely good pawns, and even Dennis Smith Jr., Kevin Knox, to throw into a big deal. I mean, these guys are still, the NBA still looks at them as prospects. I mean, they're not bust yet. I mean, they haven't played well, but it's still too early to count them out. So it's going to be interesting. And obviously, Chris Paul, I've known in the past, in 2010, he wanted to come to New York with the big toast, or it was 2011, the toast with Carmelo and Stoudemire. So, he's always had a fascination with New York City. So, the contract is not great. Obviously, it hurts you for the 2021 free agency, but, Leon really believes in his guys, and Chris Paul has been one of his guys for a long time.
That's interesting, man. And we're talking to Marc Berman of the New York Post. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Alex or JLs, before I shift to Last Dance and wrap up with Marc, you guys have any other questions in terms of offseason?
I've heard that Scott Perry was a reason that Frank Ntilikina wasn't getting some type of minutes with the Knicks. Is there any truth to that?
Well, I mean, the other day, and I've written it before, though, but listen, Scott Perry was involved in the 2017 draft. He ran it for Sacramento, and he had the 5th pick and took Fox. And I'm told that, Ntilikina was nowhere on his radar. And listen, Ntilikina was selected 3 slots later, and Perry didn't even consider him. So he wasn't high on him coming out of France. And I just don't think he's his type of point guard. Listen, he was drafted to run the triangle with Phil. We know that. But Scott Perry likes the Fox type, the scoring point guard, the guy that could, Elfrid Payton gets in the paint, really is aggressive. Not, it doesn't have to be a great playmaker, but he loves the athleticism from the point guard position, and that's really not Frank Ntilikina. So, yeah, I mean, listen, he traded for Moutier, and he brought in Trey Burke, and he's tried different things. Dennis Smith Jr., obviously, in the Porzingis trade. But I thought Frank showed progress, and Leon saw it, and Leon is Frank's former agent. So I think Frank has a new life under Leon. Okay. I think Scott would have given him away in the draft very easily to move up, and I think Leon would be a little more careful in terms of trading Ntilikina.
That's what I like to hear. Also, is Leon aware of the chemistry issues that is going on between Julius Randle and the Knicks? And are the Knicks motivated to move Julius Randle?
Yeah, that's a great question because, first of all, you got Julius and Leon who have a relationship from CAA also. But listen, Julius was an issue. The over-dribbling, spinning into traffic and losing the ball, and just not having a really great feel for the game or basketball IQ, and not really much of a defender. You look at the traditional numbers, and it's solid. Especially under Miller, he put up nice numbers, and there were a few games that he did win for them. But overall, the feeling was he didn't make anyone better. He wasn't a great leader. And yeah, there were players, and we wrote this last month, players, including R.J. Barrett, who were very frustrated that Julius wasn't moving the ball enough and that he was dribbling and then committing the odd turnover, and it got frustrating. R.J. needs the ball. And when we were talking about Cole Anthony before, I should have mentioned, he doesn't make anyone better, and I wonder if that's really a good connection with R.J. because Cole needs the ball. So, yeah, Randle was an issue, and to the question of are they open to trading him, no question. And they think they can. They think there's definite trade value. His contract's not terrible. It can expire by the 2021 free agency, although there is $4 million guaranteed on that cap for 2021. So it's not completely clear. But, yeah, they're definitely open to it. But they got to get a nice package back. And the Rozier thing, listen, we've been writing about Rozier for a while. The Scott Perry people like Rozier. Yeah, well, he's a good three-point shooter. I mean, his percentages are good. He won games in Boston, and, he didn't do great in Charlotte, but he still shot well from the three-point line. And I guess with Graham there, he could be expendable. But, yeah, listen, he's not going to win you a championship. I mean, as Boston did find out. But it's an upgrade. But then you need to replace Randall's scoring also. So, but without doubt, Leon's got his eyes and ears open with Julius.
Interesting. Mark, last question. Last night and previous Sundays we've been watching The Last Dance, the Bulls' final run, and last night's episode focused on Phil and the birth of Phil. Obviously, they showed the Knicks' glory days, which was good. They actually showed us in a good light instead of MJ just dunking over us. So that was nice, But
a young Phil Jackson.
Exactly. But it was like a lot of Knicks fans were on Twitter because they also showed, the emergence of the triangle, and a lot of Knicks fans were going back in time, like, damn, what? Like, how did Phil's tenure just crash and burn in typical Knick fashion? What did you remember most about that period and that friction between Phil and Melo, and why it just ended so terribly?
Well, watching the show last night, you had to giggle if you're a Knicks fan when Michael Jordan is on TV saying, yeah, when Phil took over, I'll be honest, I wasn't a big fan of Phil. He wanted to do the triangle, equal opportunity offense, and it just brought back all the horrible memories of Phil trying to change Carmelo. Mm-hmm. And still, Phil's friends will say if Carmelo could have bought into the triangle a little more like Michael did and like Kobe did, the Knicks could have had more success. But Carmelo is Carmelo. He's a tremendous one-on-one isolation player. He doesn't know how to play any other way. And it was a disaster with Phil. Phil thought he could change him, but Carmelo's very stubborn. And, we've written it before. Carmelo kind of soured Kristaps Porzingis on the triangle. We wrote once, I think Porzingis was telling us once after a game in Orlando, he was kind of talking about the triangle and has some potential, and it could be a really good thing, and it was very positive. And when Carmelo read the comments the next day, he reamed out Porzingis. He said, "What are you doing promoting the triangle? This is not the offense we want to play." So Porzingis shut his mouth after that about the triangles. But yeah, the similarities of hearing Jordan talk about Phil Jackson, very wary of his offense, and what happened with Carmelo and the Knicks and Phil was eerie.
Yeah.
And it's just too bad, the Phil thing. I'm glad to see Phil put, though, in a positive light these last couple of weeks, because his reputation really took a battering in New York.
Certainly did, man. Well, Mark, we definitely appreciate you coming on the show 4 times. Like I said, man, you are officially Knicks Fan TV alumni. What do you want to say to the fans out there, man?
Yeah, well, hit that thumbs up button for you boys.
Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Mark, thanks again for joining us, man. We'll talk soon, man.
All
thanks
right, guys.
again.
I enjoyed it.
All right, thanks a lot, man. Take it easy.
That was classic.
Hit that thumbs up button for you boys, people. Marc Berman from the New York Post just joined us to drop some gems on the Knicks in season, off season. We don't even know what type of season we're dealing with now, but good stuff. Good stuff, man. JLs, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, good stuff overall. I guess my thoughts overall is, well, at least for Carmelo Anthony's talk that we just having right now. If Phil Jackson was the coach instead of the GM, we might have had more of a fighting chance of, getting Carmelo Anthony to kick out the ball like Jordan did at the end of the dock when he finally realized he couldn't do it by himself. So I think that was the biggest difference. Phil Jackson wasn't coaching. So, I mean.
You think so? I mean, Al, what did you think? Did you think Phil coaching instead of preaching it from the sidelines would have made a difference? It just seems like all these guys from Melo to, Porzingis said embrace it, but there was also quotes of Porzingis saying he was confused as hell. Derrick Rose talking about this is ridiculous. I'm not sure it would have made a difference if Phil would have went to the sideline.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of big personalities there. That's something to keep in mind. I don't know. I feel like Melo was just kind of resistant to change. It happened a lot, I think, with him. And maybe Phil being on the sideline would have made a difference. That they do always say that, like, Phil's, and you could see it sort of in the Jordan doc, in Last Dance. You see he had them doing yoga and be more mindful, and he had all these different techniques, to kind of get through to guys, and gave them prescribed readings and all these different things to kind of get them in the right headspace to do what they had to do for the season or whatever. But there's also a poignant point in the documentary about how, the triangle is pretty complex. It's a different way of looking at basketball. And, you had to really give it like a full year to get into it. Whereas you have Melo, who's like, I just want the ball on the low block and I want to jab step and back down and take my fadeaways and do my thing. And, it didn't really jive with what he wanted to do. And, that was step one. And then, if what Berman's saying is true about, Melo reaming out other players, if they were talking positively about it to the press or whatever, then it was doomed to fail, man, because he was still the leader at that point.
True story, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jails.
I'm pretty much agreeing with everything Alex just said.
Yeah.
It took a year. It took a whole
a year for the Bulls to get it down.
Under the guy who invented who with the construction of the triangle and Phil Jackson directly under them. It took them an entire year to get it.
And on top of that,
we had like a secondhand kind of teaching thing happening. Oh, Derek Fisher's going to teach him.
That was a disaster, man.
Yeah, it's like, so first of all, you're not even getting the direct link to the triangle, and then you're not getting the guy who even believes in the triangle. So you were doomed from the start.
True story, man. Go ahead, Al.
And even you had a team, with those Bulls that was good enough to still even get to these conference finals, even while learning it. You know what I mean? Whereas the Knicks were kind of just behind the curve on the talent category. That certainly doesn't help either. You don't have that. You don't have your Rodman and freaking Michael Jordan, who's already MVP of the league, defensive player of the year, blah, 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 every freaking accolade by the time he won his first championship.
You had a Rodman who all he wanted to do was play defense and rebound. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, not Rodman for that first run, but yes, later on you had Rodman too.
Yeah.
But like during that first run, like they still managed to take 2 games off the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the next year, once they finally grasped it, they swept that same team, and then beat the Lakers in the finals in I think 5 games. So I mean, yeah, it's clearly a super talented team, and that system ultimately just unlocked them and gave them the ability to win 6 championships in 8 years. But the Knicks were just they were never going to be that good, regardless if Derrick Rose thought they were a super team or not, or even the 14-15 pre-Porzingis team or any of that stuff.
I didn't expect it to be anywhere near that. Not even saying that, but damn, boy, we had some treacherous years during that from 2014 and 17.
I think you need strong voices to advocate for Phil Jackson and for the system. I think that's what it is.
If your star player's not buying it, forget it. You're toast.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done. On top of that, the shots on Twitter, the subliminals through Charlie Rosen. It was just a typical Knicks mess. But on to present day and the Berman interview. Hey, what do you guys think about Perry running the draft? What are your thoughts on that?
You want me to lead?
Yeah, go ahead, Al. Go ahead, because I want to segue into your article as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, I just got into many Twitter views today about it because I wrote a thing saying, maybe it's not so bad. To me, I don't think it's that bad of a thing to have.
You can say the same thing on the show, Alex. You're saying the same thing on the show.
Yeah, just to run the draft. I went through and I looked through every draft that he's had a hand in, and it's difficult to say exactly how much input he had. To what Marc
prior
just said,
to coming here,
to what Marc just said, it sounded like he basically had run of the Sacramento draft in 2017. I mean, his background is scouting, right? So my general assumption is when he was in these assistant GM roles and stuff, that he probably had more to do with picking what players to draft, more so than picking what players to sign or what trades to execute. Because his background when he came up with the Pistons and everything was in scouting. And so he scouted for them and then went to the Supersonics for a year, helped them draft Kevin Durant, which, whatever. That was kind of a home run. Once Greg Oden went first, obviously Durant was going to go second. Those were the only 2 you were talking about at the top of that draft. But then, went to the Magic for, I think, 5 seasons, and then briefly to the Kings as the assistant GM before coming to the Knicks, where he got offered the full GM job, which Sacramento was nice enough to let him out of his 3-month-old contract to come here. But I went through those drafts and it's really not too bad. I mean, if you just look at his Knicks tenure, first off, he didn't overthink it last year. Took RJ Barrett, which I think we can all agree was the best pick. Still, possibly could have made it 3, I think, based off what we saw from RJ. And, then took Iggy, which we never really got a chance to see bear out, how he was going to play in the NBA this year. Hopefully we get to see next year, but he tore it up in the G League. Seems like a good talent. Traded up for nothing more than just a handful of cash, which I'm all about. Spend that $3 million of James Dolan's money every single year. Every year. Just burn it at the draft. Picked up Kenny Wooten, who we never got to see, also as an undrafted free agent.
True. Lamar Peters. I mean,
Lamar Peters
may
also,
not get a shot,
who never made it into the Knicks system, but presumably next year could come on as a 2-way contract.
Yeah.
Knox is the one you can maybe say out of his picks he made with the Knicks is sort of up in the air still, but I think it's still too early to make a determination on someone who can't even drink a beer yet.
Yeah.
I put out something. I think I put it. I don't know if I put it in my article or if I just put it in a tweet the other day. That Obi Toppin, who's projected to be a top 10 pick probably this year and player of the year, all that stuff, is going to be a year and a half older than Kevin Knox when he comes into the league. This is the guy that we're talking about. Oh, Obi Toppin might have great potential, blah, 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 with Mitchell Robinson. And he's a year and a half older than Kevin Knox, who's been in the NBA for 2 years.
That's crazy.
So, we got to consider that when you're talking about, his draft record with Knox. It's kind of an incomplete. Mitchell Robinson, obviously, home run. Trier was great, undrafted pickup. It's undeniable. For an undrafted free agent, he was great. If he's a functional NBA role player on a good team, that's a whole nother story, but most undrafted free agents don't amount to anything, let alone 10 point per game players that shoot 40% from 3.
It's true.
And then, that Sacramento draft, if we're assuming that that's the one that he had the most input in, took De'Aaron Fox with the 5th pick overall, which I think was a great pick. Could have potentially taken Markkanen or Isaac there. And I think Fox has definitely worked out better than either of those two. Not say they're bad, but, it was a pretty good draft.
The swipe of the Fox, man.
That's and then traded down from pick 10, got 2 more stabs at it in the first round, which I thought was, I don't know, someone was trying to be like play the Donovan Mitchell card on me earlier, be like, oh, he could have taken Mitchell at 10. I'm like, yeah,
there was a lot of GMs that could have taken Mitchell.
Yeah, there's a lot of GMs could have taken Donovan Mitchell and they didn't, and there was a lot of needs for that team. He saw an opportunity to trade down and fill multiple holes that were coming up that offseason, which was.
That was for who? They got Giles in that draft as well, right?
Giles and Justin Jackson, and they had just lost DeMarcus Cousins in the trade for Buddy Hield. So that's the other thing. Where why would they take Donovan Mitchell? They just traded their only star from the last 5 years for Buddy Hield,
right?
Who their owner at the time was calling the next Steph Curry, And so you just made that trade. So now you've presumably filled your point guard and shooting guard spots. So he traded down, took Justin Jackson for small forward, took, Harry Giles as a center, who they've then since now they're letting become an unrestricted free agent this year, which is strange and could be the Knicks gain if they go after him. But that I thought that was a good draft too. And then, you go back further, there's a couple bad ones. There's a couple good ones, it's like, when I broke it down, it was 50-50, and that's all you can really ask for.
Jails, you're not going to bat 1,000. No GM is going to bat 1,000. Not Presti, not Morey, nobody. Not R.C. Buford, nobody. Nope. I think, listen, if we look at what Perry's done with it directly in this position, I agree with Alex. Knox to me is a TBD, despite what many of the fan base may say. He's way too young to have a verdict on. Yes, you could say SGA was a better pick. Yes, you could say Miles Bridges or McCall, but none of those guys, I don't see any of those guys being superstars anyway. Let's just be real. You don't know how great those guys are going to be to say that we missed out on a huge opportunity. They're all getting Mitch in the second round. Like you said, Alex, if you're going to praise Mitch, then you got to praise the guys that brought him in. You know what I mean? If you're going to praise Mitch being a steal in the second round, you got to praise the guys that brought him in. Zoe almost hitting that 50, 40, 90 slash line last year, putting up numbers, undrafted, signed right out of the gate. That was a good deal. And you're hearing scouts that are high on Iggy. We haven't seen him yet. So let's see how it plays out. I don't really have an issue with Perry, man, in this draft. Go ahead, Jails.
Yeah, me neither, man. And it's the value picks, man. Those value picks, those second round picks, when you picking up something and you're like, all right, this can do something for your team. That's a guy who can contribute to the team and is cheap. Is the things that the Knicks need right now. I don't even know if you give him credit for this, but when he was on the Pistons, I guess the greatest value pick has to be Tayshaun Prince when he was with the Pistons at 20 something. That's a huge value pick. That's something that we got from Mitch Robinson, and we're not even talking about Victor Oladipo too. Victor Oladipo was a huge impact, and that's another Scott Perry guy who took a while to develop, but once he got there, he was there. So everybody's heard me on the program say again and again that I'm down for Ninja Pete drafting. He's done well drafting for us. People try to argue me down about it, and I was like, yo, y'all was all hyped about Mitchell Robinson and Alonzo Trill last year. So how can you then come to the next season and then all of a sudden say we did a horrible job after I was hyped after 1 year? That doesn't make sense. But
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. To me, what's important is bringing the coach in. Who are you going to have coach? Because what does the future coach want in a pick? What is his style going to be, his philosophy? Does that impact the type of point guard that he goes after? Does that impact the strategy of going best player available or over point guard or position in need? I think the coach is a very important position rather than who's going to pick the players, because I feel like Rose is going to have the final say anyway for the draft.
Yeah, the coach is going to be a big deal. That's the thing I'm most nervous about. That can kind of change the trajectory of this franchise, man. It's the coach.
Big.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Let me hit this reset real quick. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. We got 500 people in here. Ellis and Alex on an off night, just chilling, talking Knicks. How'd you like that? Berman hit that thumbs up button for you boys. He knows the company classic. Credo.
That was classic.
He knows the credo, Ellis. Come on, man. Phone lines are up 657-383-1509. We're going to keep this rolling for about another like 15, 20 minutes. If you guys want to call in with your comments on the Berman interview, give us a call, 657-383-1509. His Randle comments were kind of surprising, to say that they would definitely field some offers or be aggressive.
That wasn't surprising for me at all.
That was kind of surprising for me, man. Why not, JLs?
Because we have eyes. That's why.
Listen, I hear you, man. Of course.
Listen,
of course. We did plenty of post games with that. That was just, excruciating to watch and talk about. But, I don't know. It's just hard for me to see that they would go back on that decision so fast. I know it didn't work.
I explained it last time. I was like, listen, with Steve Mills gone and Leon Rose at the helm, there's no pressure for Leon Rose to prove that Steve Mills or Scott Perry was right in any way with how they drafted our team together. He doesn't care about that. He's caring about results. So there is no pressure to keep Julius Randle just because. Like, we looking at facts, man. We looking at what's going on. And anybody with eyes, I still, what's this, the Charlotte game where RJ was clapping for the ball for like 2 quarters and he started chucking in the third. He would not pass the ball because Randle wasn't passing the ball. Like, everybody saw that the chemistry is not working with Randle here. He's a talented guy for sure. He's not trash like everybody's saying.
Yeah, he's a talented, but listen, I can't just sell him low. That's my problem, Al. I can't just throw this guy, not for Terry Rozier. Like, Terry Rozier, man, come on, man, please.
I mean, the worst part about that rumored Terry Rozier deal, if you remember, when I think it was Bagley that report. Yeah, it was that it was Randle, DSJ, and a pick
that's
for
crazy.
Rozier and Monk. If it was a straight up swap of Randle for Rozier, I could see where they're coming from. Like, I don't know, like Julius Randle just strikes me as kind of a Perry, or well, maybe more of Julius Randle strikes me as kind of like a Jordan type of player for whatever reason, he gave a big contract to Al Jefferson back in the day, that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And Rozier strikes me as sort of a Perry type of dude, like what Berman was saying. Like, so if they want to do a straight swap of that, I could live with it, I guess. I don't love Rozier. I think his overall shooting percentage sucks. His 3-point percentage has gone up when he's really engaged on D. I think he's a pretty decent defensive guard, but I guess he's sort of in a way like the anti-Elfrid Payton in a way. Like, as far as
that's for damn sure. I can't watch Payton anymore, man. As a starter, I can't watch him as a starter, man. Putting up 3-footer bricks, air balls,
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. All right, let's go to the phones. We had a little bit of phone technical difficulties over the past couple of days. We're in the process of fixing it, so we're gonna use Will from LI as the guinea pig. Will, first off, what's going on? How you doing? And everybody in the chat, let me know if you can hear Will. Will, go ahead. All right, hang on. Don't get to your point just yet. I just want to make sure that the people in the chat can hear you. Al, JLs, can you hear Will? You can.
I can't hear him.
All right, Will, go ahead. You should be able to hear him now. You might have an echo on your line, Will, but we're working on it, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I do. I hear the echo, but
Yeah.
I am able to hear everybody though.
Okay, go ahead.
So listen, man. I have no issues with us keeping Scott Perry because I felt like it was definitely a Steve Mills thing when it came to all the bureaucracy and everything. What I do have question marks about is about Mike Miller because after we got rid of Fizz, I was expecting to see more of the kids playing. And while they were executing better defense, plays, and all that, I still feel like certain players not getting player time was like Miller being too scared to like step on anybody's toes. And I want to coach that doesn't worry about that. And that's why I believe the number one choice is Kenny Atkinson. Because even with him, when he had players like Kyrie and KD, he still felt like Jared Allen was a better option than the trader, the snake. What's his name?
DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan.
Right?
Yeah.
So he put Jared Allen in front of him. And then, it cost him his job. But that's a guy, I like that because I felt like he believed in something and he wasn't going to get pushed around. And I don't really know if I feel that way for Mike Miller. But that's all I got to say, man.
Appreciate you.
Good work, guys.
Be safe in the streets, man. Be safe, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly argue, Miller's rotations, especially as the season went on, it just you weren't sure where the orders were coming from, right? Even Berman's article on Frank, he made it seem like part of the reason why Frank's playing time was so inconsistent was due to the fact that he wasn't a Perry guy. So I don't know if that kind of drove Miller's decision making in terms of the rotations. Al, you covered the team later on this season. What did you make of that?
I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not as well connected as a Berman or a Bagley or whatever.
Yep.
I didn't really I got the impression that there was probably something coming down from on high. There was probably some direction because to hear Miller talk, it sounded like he wanted to get the kids involved. And but it also sounded like he was kind of given a directive to try to win basketball games. And they did. To his credit, I thought that he did a decent job. He didn't lean fully into we're only going to play the younger players. And you obviously ran into some of those situations where, and I mean, this is something where I think maybe Miller had to be more assertive with calling out Randle and Payton for turning it into a two-man offense, that sort of stuff. I think that sort of stuff needed to be called out more, and I fault him for that. But all in all, I think he found a pretty decent balance of trying to get guys out there for some development minutes, and not totally burying them. Even Kevin Knox, you could say, yeah, he got jerked around a little bit, but at least under Miller, he was finding kind of a comfort zone of 15 to 20 minutes a game for the better part of the time that Miller was there. And then you had Frank, I think, kind of had to get his playing time back at a certain point, but he earned it back and got to the point where I thought he was really challenging for the starting job and probably would have taken it to end the year. And Randall was going to be a mainstay no matter what, but I think that was a directive, but he did show the cojones, to stick with Bobby Portis down the stretch if Portis was playing better with the closing group or whatever, and leave Randall on the bench a couple times. And, the whole Mitch thing, everybody gets bent out of shape about, but everything that's come out during and since, it's just said, it's just what Mitch was comfortable with. And he wanted to keep Mitch comfortable because he was playing at such a high level off the bench and was playing, 25 to 30 minutes anyway. So who really cared? Got it. Yeah. And he was closing games, he was comfortable closing games. It's not like you could only put Mitch out there in the middle and he wasn't comfortable starting or finishing just for whatever reason. He didn't like starting the game or starting the half. So, yeah, I guess that's my general read of it. I think there was definitely some orders coming down. I do think he was also sort of coaching for his life. You know what I mean? He knew that he was just an interim, and it was very clear that they were going to conduct a coaching search at the end of the year. So obviously wins talk, and really, like I said, if he set out to win games, he did a good job. He had them playing at a 32-33 win pace, which would have outpaced anything we would have thought that the Knicks would have gotten this year. If he got 33 wins, that would have been a 16 win improvement, which is almost unheard of. So yeah, I don't know. I think he did what he was supposed to do. I think it's unfair to judge and say that he didn't play the kids enough or anything, because it just maybe it contradicted with what his directive was. Mm-hmm. And that's why he had to do it the way that he did. But I thought that he still managed to find enough minutes for a lot of them.
Tough business, man. Go ahead, Jails.
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation on the show before too. It's and I think I had a good conversation with Dallas too, about what is development and what is not. And there were times where you definitely saw some development. The Rockets game is probably the highlight of the season for me, when we saw Frank and RJ actually finish the game, and both of them stayed in crunch time minutes, and it seemed like they earned those minutes. It didn't seem like it was giving it to them. And when you seem like they earned the minutes, the minutes just seem that much more meaningful. And I feel like it kind of boosts the confidence of those young players. So in that regard, it was almost good that it wasn't just handed to them like they deserved it because, you're young. So I kind of like that a little bit. Even though I myself complained that Frank was getting benched too much when he wasn't playing, when I felt like he was playing well, and the same for Knox too. But yeah, like at the end of the day, I'm still considering Miller at some point to coach for the Knicks. I wouldn't be completely upset if that happened. I'm definitely on the Kenny Atkinson wave, but something that I've read recently has me second guessing.
What about the game managing?
Yeah, yes, the game management is a concern because you got to be able to adjust. And the one thing I can say about Mike Miller that we didn't see with Fizdale is Mike Miller adjusted and called plays accordingly to get people in spots where they were successful. And I just wish he prioritized shooting a little bit more in the starting lineups. But maybe like Mark said, he felt like we didn't have the shooters. I feel like we had Dotson on the bench that we didn't use.
Free Dot, but that's neither here nor there.
I thought I was a shooter, but whatever. Yeah. Who am I? But yeah. Like if he's back, I wouldn't be super upset.
I wouldn't be upset about it
as a head coach. Though.
I wouldn't be upset about it at all. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Let me address the super chats that came in. Salute to Danny Thomas. JLs, he says he wants to see what Perry can do without Mills for at least a year or two. Keep Miller. The organization is always firing people. We need stability. I like that comment.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I've said that before too. Like I want to see how much. I would like to see how much of this mess was Mills and how much wasn't, because I've always saw Mills as a handicap, man. When he signed Ron Baker to
when he locked himself in a closet that one week with no GM and signed Ron Baker to a no trade.
Yeah,
it's all downhill from there. Can't be trusted.
I felt like half the moves were just undoing the bull that he did. So a part of me wants to see what he would do with the reins gone and knowing what he knows now. But then I don't like that he don't let my guy Frank either. I don't like that.
I agree with that, man. I definitely agree with that. Skrilla, shout out to Skrilla. He says, we right back to hiring friends and no development. I guess he was talking about the Brock Aller trade. But it's a relationship business, you know, guys are going to be comfortable working with guys that they know or guys that they worked with in the past. But, if you're speaking of like the Brock Aller signing, he comes highly touted. He's a capologist, which is somebody obviously we need. And I think we got to give Rose time to put his team together.
Brock Leon Rose needed a cap guy. Yeah. Like Leon Rose doesn't get how to do he probably has some idea from being an agent, but he's not an NBA cap guy.
No.
He doesn't know the finer intricacies of the salary cap. I'm sure he knows how much he could get a client paid as an agent. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think ultimately Leon is going to be sort of like the figurehead, and the ultimate decision maker, obviously too. But mostly he's the guy that's like, wow, look at this prestigious person in the basketball community that we have running our team. But he's not going to sit there and be like, oh, can we afford to fit this guy into the biannual exception this year and blah, blah, blah. Like, he's not going to do that. He doesn't know that stuff.
You need a guy like Aller that's going to crush.
Yeah, and Aller apparently is brilliant. Like, I don't care if he's best friends with Leon Rose. Cool. Leon Rose is best friends with a good cap guy. That's awesome. Like, this is why you hire a guy.
You got to let him marinate, man.
Yeah, that's why you hire a well-connected guy to run your basketball team.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, sometimes your friends are dope.
We'll see, man. Salute to Robert Parrish, Jails. He says Knicks personnel will be dictated by Rose. That's why he's here.
Hey, shout out to Robert Parrish. I recognize him from PNT from back in the day. Yeah, man. On PNT article.
Yeah, man. Active Knicks fan out there in the social wave. So salute to him. Salute to Brandon McNeely in the chat, Sales. He says we got to change the post-game live banner to quarantine live. We got to switch it up to address the occasion. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, man. This is the quarantine stream after all.
All right, Al. Live, maybe.
What'd you say?
Home time live.
Home time live.
It could work. So
we'll take suggestions. Throw some suggestions in the chat. What should we rename
like
this show
quarantine
to?
stream.
I do like the quarantine stream. It kind of rolls off, kind of
Yeah, I like
you know,
that.
posting and toasting type of thing. You know what I mean?
It does. It does kind of have that sort of vibe to it.
Yeah. Al, one more call before you bounce?
Yeah, I'm good. I can do one more.
All right, cool. Let's go to Dwayne and Yonkers is up next. Dwayne and Yonkers, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. What's your point for today?
No, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the draft, man. I think it's pretty simple, guys. Like, we got to keep it simple. We got to draft another playmaker, another tall guard playmaker, and that's Melo Ball or Killian Hayes. There's nothing else to really think about.
Done.
I mean, unless they're both gone. When
unless you're picking six. Unless you're picking six and get screwed or get 10th, Yeah, man.
I mean, I can't really hear you.
All right. Well, we had phone issues with him, but yeah, listen. I'd love to have either one. I'd love to have either one as the floor general for this team, man. Preferably LaMelo. Well, we shall see. LaMelo just signed with Rock Nation today.
Mm-hmm.
All three brothers. LiAngelo and Lonzo. They're still bringing LiAngelo along for the ride, man.
They're trying to get him that G League contract.
They're trying to get him.
Yeah, man. They're trying to.
Yeah. That'll be another JR Chris Smith deal. It's a package deal. Package deal.
That was a CAA special, too. That JR and Chris Smith thing. So, look out.
Definitely, man. So we'll see how it goes. We got to wait for the lottery first, man. We got to wait for the lottery and see how this falls. But obviously, LaMelo's going to go 1 to 3, depending on who's selecting first. Mm-hmm. So I think, like I said, watch Golden State. What do they do? Are they going to go Wiseman? Are they going to try to trade down and get Denny if they get the number 1 pick? Is what I'm saying. I think Golden State could be the wild card. I can't. Why not?
For all the reasons that all the scouts have mentioned, it just seems like the way Golden State operates, they like multifaceted guys who can pass, dribble, and shoot.
Yeah, I mean that would speak to Denny. I don't know. I just think that's smoke. I don't see why they wouldn't take a play like Wiseman. I think a guy like a Wiseman could fit them perfectly.
He could potentially if he plays a certain role, but when have they ever had a guy that would potentially be as ball dominant as Wiseman at the 5?
Right.
You know what I mean?
They've never had that.
But they've also never truly had I guess they sort of did with McGee. I was gonna say they've never really invested that much in a true kind of rim protector type guy.
True.
But also he struggles in space from what I've seen. He's got really slow hips, with rotating. From what I'm very lightly into the draft process still so far. But most of what I've seen about Wiseman is he's a good shot blocker, but he's kind of an empty shot blocker. You know what I mean? He's like Hassan Whiteside-esque in that respect. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I guess
no wiggle in the hips. I don't know about that.
I guess we shall see. One more for you, Al. Let's go to Moses from New York. Wants to talk about the Knicks' future. Moses, how you feeling, man? Hello? Hey, how you doing, bro?
Hello, you there?
Yeah, loud and clear, man. Yeah, bro.
How you doing, man?
Good.
I'm good. Now, I'd like to tell you this, right? To me, I feel like what was y'all saying about Phil Jackson? To me, I don't even want to discuss that man because that man was horrible in New York. I'm surprised I even brought his name up. The reason why I say he was horrible is not only can he not get stars to come here, but this man can't even get NCAA players to even have Honey Nut Cheerios with the man and have coffee with him, all right? So now, to move on, if you think about this, to me, I feel like, what you think about bringing Mike Woodson back on board to coach this team? Because Mike Woodson was tough on defense. And let me see. With Melo, I would say no, not right now. Let Melo just go to a title contender, get 1 ring, and then if you want to come back to New York, you come back. And number 3, man, I just want us to build a team, man. We gotta stay stable with the organization, the front office. Hire somebody with a proven track record. I would say stick with the front office we got now, and then move forward. And then let's see what they do 2-3 years down the line. Because if you keep switching, then I mean, how are y'all gonna win? What culture do y'all have here? You understand? We need to develop a culture. And last but not least, to me, when you talk about Melo, when Melo was here, the team, okay, they made the playoffs 3 times, but it wasn't still good enough because I feel like what happened was when they got Melo, people forget that James Dolan was the one who pulled the gun. You understand? Mm-hmm. James Dolan was the one who forced Donnie Walsh to get that dude Melo. So to me, and then Wilson Chandler said it, like, yo, if they would have stayed with that team and then Melo would have came as a free agent, all they needed was a good point guard and a new coach, and which was I would bring Mike Woodson on board. Then that team would have won championship.
I don't know about championship, but they would have They would have been much more competitive, though. Appreciate the call, Moses. Let's go to his Woodson point before Al goes. I mean, would you guys entertain a Woodson reunion? I don't think Rose would, but would you?
Well, I just want to say real quick before we leave that Melo point in the dust. Yeah. There's a lot of revisionist history about Melo. The whole reason that the Knicks gave up the whole freaking farm for him like they did is because he said that he would go to the New Jersey Nets.
They panicked.
And sign a contract. And you know, they basically sent the same package they were going to send for Melo to Utah for Darren Williams. You know, otherwise that would have been the package for Melo. Yeah. And you know, maybe slightly more than that if they were trying to outbid the Knicks or whatever. But the Knicks, you know, they kind of got you know, their hand was forced by Melo there. Yeah, I love Melo. I actually enjoyed his tenure here, but he forced that. Was kind of that was always a cloud over his tenure was the fact that he forced it here. He could have come in free agency, but he wanted to secure his money ahead of time, which I don't totally blame him for.
Which is Leon Rose.
There was exactly. There's Leon Rose. There was a lot of talk about that the cap might go way lower or something, when they got out of the lockout and stuff. And Melo was afraid of that, and Leon Rose was afraid of that. So they made sure to secure that money before he could hit free agency and potentially lose out on that. And they used the Nets as leverage. And that's why the Knicks had to pull the trigger. Now, if Dolan ultimately, made Walsh give up as much as Denver possibly asked for, then that's one thing. Maybe Walsh would have just said, I pass and let him go to New Jersey. Yeah. But it was never going to be a situation where Melo hit free agency for the Knicks.
No.
Anyway, to get back to Mike Woodson.
Yeah.
No.
No.
That's just kind of where I'm at. I think his time has passed. I don't really. If we're gonna bring back a coach that's been here before, give me like Van Gundy or Thibodeau for that matter, who's never head coach here but was an assistant under him. Someone that had a little more success. I think Woodson, we learned, sort of stumbled into the best run in recent Knicks history, where he had Melo at the 4, but that wasn't his preference, and that was never his preference. His preference was to play 2 bigs and play Melo at the 3. He kind of got forced by injuries into putting Melo at the 4.
Yep.
And it just so happened to work. And then he promptly in the playoffs, the second that Stat came back, tried to immediately throw Stat back in there. That's where and then the next year there was the whole quote of the East is big man. Because he was just like convinced that you had to start 2 like twin towers down low.
The Bargnani, the Roy Hibbert stopper.
Yeah, exactly.
And he didn't play my boy on the Pacers. Oh my God, I'm forgetting his name right now.
Hibbert.
Not Hibbert.
You talking about Thad Young or David West?
David West.
No, with the locks.
Oh, Copeland.
Yeah.
Oh, Cope.
Copeland. He should give my man Cope more minutes.
Yeah, man. They let Copeland go to the Pacers. You're right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say no to Woodson, man.
I'd say no. I mean, it's cool. It's a fun memory. He'd be more memeable than any other coach. But he had great facial expressions.
Yeah, I would let that pass, man. But Al, definitely appreciate you for coming on. I know you got double duties, man. So go ahead and sign out with the people. Let them know where to find you, man.
Yeah, going to the Posting and Toasting show where I'm just guesting, but I'll promote them too to listen to that tomorrow, I think. Then you can find me on Posting and Toasting, writing, editing, whatever, postingandtoasting.com or PT Knicks blog on Twitter. You can check me out, Locked On Knicks. We just put out a really great series part with Berman that we're really happy about, breaking down the best teams in Knicks history. So we did the 99 team with Berman. We did the 94 team with Chris Herring, who's writing the Blood on the Hardwood book about the early 90s Knicks. And then we did a 4-part episode with Harvey Araton, who wrote When the Garden Was Eden, who used to be a beat reporter for the Knicks, was a huge fan back in those 70s, teams and all that. So we just did a big thing with him with that. So that's at Locked On Knicks on Twitter or anywhere podcasts you can, listen to them, except for SoundCloud. But, hopefully you got one other than that. And then Knicks SI or allknicks.com is the URL, at Knicks SI on Twitter. I've been putting out weekly or sometimes bi-weekly stuff for them. Just I've been doing like a keeper cut series, breaking down all the guys the Knicks have to make decisions on this offseason. I just did that piece about Perry that dropped today. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Or you can find me on Twitter at the Alex Wolf. Did I hit all my laundry list?
You hit all the hats, man.
And then you can find me when it works for me. You can find me as the Sunday host of Knicks Fan TV.
There you go. There you go, man. So yeah, definitely. I'm glad to have you back on the show. Be safe out there, man. We'll talk to you again, bro. Thanks again.
Of course, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice to see you both. Hopefully see you again soon.
Be safe, bro.
All right.
That was Alex Wolf, posting and toasting si.com/Knicks. All that good stuff, man. Locked On Knicks as well, so make sure you check those guys out. JLs, we got 2 more calls before we wrap up. Let's go to, Nate just dropped. Well, Nate, if you're on, you could call back. But let's close with Omar from Florida. Omar, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on? What's good?
How you doing, bro?
Hey, yeah, man, I got no faith in Leon Rose. I got no faith in none of these people.
You just got here, man. What do you mean? You just got here,
friends.
Bro. What do you want him to do already? You just got here. I'm here.
Oh, my fault. I could barely hear you.
I said, what do you want him to do? He just got here.
Thing. It's like they're hiring friends. I mean, Scott Perry, he's going to be kept for the draft. Why? Because he got a relationship with Leon Rose. Like, I'm not feeling that. And also this Mike Woodson stuff. Man, Mike Woodson, man, I didn't like Mike Woodson. Before he left, he was switching on everything. He wasn't playing no more good defense. He had that, we did good that 54-win season. You know what I'm saying? We did good with that. Mm-hmm. But he was switching all the time. He wasn't playing. He wasn't doing good lineups. He should have had Amari at the center, Melo at the 4. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't doing that. I remember when we had our test. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't playing him. I know he was, kind of over the hill by then, but he was. Yeah. You needed defense, and he wouldn't play him because he said something. Because something that he said, he was too old school. I don't like these old school dudes. That's real stubborn and hard headed. Yeah. Man.
All right, appreciate the call, man. The guy just got here, Jay Ellis, man. What do you want the guy to do, man?
He didn't like Scott Perry, so he got off to a slow start from the grip. He's over it. If you ain't like Scott Perry, that means you don't like Scott Perry in the draft. That means you're already over it.
Listen, man, I don't think it's a case of him just keeping a friend. I just think he's brand new on the job. Yeah. Heaviest jersey to wear in the league. Coronavirus threw everything in a loop.
Definitely.
You did hear they're still going to do due diligence.
Yep.
So this could be, maybe it's this year. Maybe his contract is up on the 30th. Maybe it's just after the draft. Or maybe it's long-term. We don't know for sure. But I think for the sake of continuity, if your GM has already been there with all the scouts, checking the players out and everything, let them provide you the resources and that information on the players, and you make the decision with your coach and with Perry.
Absolutely. And the thing you have to realize is Leon Rose is an agent.
Right.
He is an agent. He is not... This is his first rodeo. He does not have experience in this arena completely. He is learning on the fly. When you are learning on the fly, it's really hard to just come in day one making wholesale moves and like bringing your own guys in, because he doesn't really have his own guys.
Right.
Which means you kind of have to move slow, tread lightly, and do a lot more observing before you do a lot more moving. I mean, and that's not Leon's fault. Really, like, if we wanted somebody to come in here and start making changes right away, then we should have hired somebody. So, but Leon Rose is the guy right now, and because Leon Rose is the guy, he's learning on a job, he has to take his time and kind of observe and make his moves that way.
Gotta let him marinate, JLs, Gotta let him marinate. Listen, it's very easy to not have faith in this whole thing. Trust me, I know. But you gotta let him marinate. Let him build his team. Take it one day at a time, brick by brick, and let's see what happens. Let's get a coach on it. What are we going to do with the coach? let's get that on there, man. Let's get that on and figure that out. But appreciate the call, Omar. We're gonna work on getting the phones fixed. There's just been some issues with the switchboard, but Nate, just close us out and just keep in mind the phones are a little bit off tonight. So go ahead, Nate.
All right, I'll be quick. The Melo trade, man, honestly, it's kind of random, but there's nothing to talk about. But I feel like the Melo trade, like, shouldn't Melo have signed a free agency? Would that have been more beneficial? Yeah. But I don't think it really, like, held us up or, like, stopped us from being a great team as much as people said it did. Because, like, the real thing that held us up was the Amari contract.
Yes.
And I love
Yes.
Amari, to keep it real.
Yes.
Like, he held us back, like, eating up all that cap space. And we had a free out with the amnesty, but for some reason we used on Chauncey Billups when he only had like a year left on his deal, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And we also, and Chris Paul, he made it explicitly clear that he wanted to come to New York. So there was a path where we had Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul. And I don't know about you, I'll take my chances on that. I think they could have won a championship together, both of them in their prime, especially Melo in that 2013 season.
Yeah.
But instead, our second best teammate that we ever got from Melo was friggin' Tyson Chandler or J.R. Smith. So it was like, I don't know. But yeah, that's all I got, really.
Tough. Appreciate the call, Nate. Be safe up there in Rochester. You know, JL, it was just, you know, like I said, it's not to say, you know, I think one of the calls Moses said they would have won a championship if you didn't trade those pieces. I don't think so, but I think they would have been way more competitive. I mean, when you traded all those guys on top of your max contract and Amari being worthless, that's when you got stuck with Tony Douglas out there, Bill Walker, and you know, what do you think? Melo's gonna pass the ball to them? That's like MJ in The Last Dance. Look, man, I don't want Bill Cartwright shooting the ball with 5 seconds left on the clock. I mean, that's what he was left with. You know, I thought him and Danilo could have been a dope pairing. Yeah, Wilson Chandler could have given you that defense off the bench. First tour, Raphael. Much different than Anthony Carter, JLs. Yeah, I mean, let's just keep it real. That team, Mozgov.
Oh, yeah. I was mad. I was like, you gonna trade my guy, Mozgov? Oh.
Yeah. You know, if you would have had a shrewd GM that would have seen the Amari thing coming, they probably wouldn't have signed him. But a GM would have made that amnesty, would have cut him.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. Like, politically?
You wouldn't have. Nah, hell no.
Like, that's easier to say in hindsight.
Exactly.
But Amari was the first guy to come here. Like, I'm not sure if Melo was coming here without Amari being here, because back then the allure was Amari and Melo being paired together, and we can see what these two superstars can do. But, you know, he was never really healthy for a long enough period of time to actually see what that would look like. So, I mean, it makes sense in hindsight, but at the time when Amari got here, and when he first got here, he was a terror.
Mm-hmm.
New York was excited. He was putting up points. He had a team on his back. Everybody thought he needed Steve Nash to kind of carry him on an offensive load. And we quickly found out that Amari can carry a load offensively by himself. No problem. So there was this excitement about having Amari. Yeah. It was just, his knees and his legs just
hurt us. I think it hurt us more than it helped us, man. But I think a lot of people overlook it because the excitement when he first came and embraced the challenge and New York is back and all that, and was killing, you know, those consecutive 30-point games and just dominating everything, J. Ellis. And it was just short-lived. It was just short-lived, man. You know. So anyway, good show, J. Ellis. Good show, everybody. Thanks to Marc Berman and Alex Wolf for joining us. JL's, go ahead and sign out, man.
Yeah, man. I promise we're gonna get the stream together because my stream didn't.
Yeah, I had yours working. I tested it earlier. I tested your stream early and it was working, but I don't know what happened.
I don't know if it has anything to do with me scheduling it with the stream. I don't know if that's throwing it off.
I'm not sure. It should have still went live. I don't know. We gotta figure it out, but we'll test it out again in the coming days.
But yeah, hopefully might have a new Nigga Time show maybe this week. Keep your fingers crossed. So definitely stay tuned for that at the Nigga Time Show, youtube.com/Nigga Time Show. Also, always check out the blog. My guy Ken is holding it down. Dolo writing some great stuff. He just wrote about a blueprint series, pretty much 2-part series about what he thinks it'll take for the Knicks to go into the right direction. So definitely check that out too at niggatimeshow.com. And yeah, that's it, man. You will also get the merch. Got the Knox merch in the back if you want to cop that, and more merch. Frank Ntilikina, Mitch Robinson, RJ, and all that stuff, man. So definitely check that stuff out as well. That is all. Yeah, follow me on social media. I've been live on social media lately, but I'll promise being back on that when I get some other situated.
Yes, sir.
That's all. Back to you, CP.
Appreciate you, J. Ellis, and appreciate everybody for watching, man. We had over 500 people watching on YouTube. Salute to everybody watching on Facebook, on Twitch, on Periscope. We appreciate you guys. Thanks again for Marc Berman for coming through. You heard Marc Berman. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. It goes a long way in supporting this show. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Remember the show for everybody that's new. Welcome all team #new. Remember the show's available in audio podcast format. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcast, Alexa, and Stitcher. If you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, please leave us a review. It would go a long way, and we really appreciate it. Definitely want to shout out Alex Tratoros, J. Ellis. He said, salute J. Ellis, CP, and Alex Wolf on the quarantine stream. Sent us a super chat. And stay healthy, man. Stay healthy. Somebody had sent me some news today that Sebastian Telfair, man, lost his mom and his brother to coronavirus. Man.
Right.
And, yeah, it's
come on.
Yeah, man. Another homie hit me up. His homie lost father, brother, and cousin. Same time. So it's a hard time for everybody. We're just trying to do what we can and keep everybody's spirits up. And so if you have been impacted by this, just keep your head up, take it one day at a time, stay strong, and hopefully, we provide you an hour of temporary relief, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And as always, shout out to all the essential workers out there, nurses, EMTs, doctors,
all of them, man.
On the lines, drop the bus, you at the grocery store. So, shout out to all you guys.
True story, man. All right, Jail. So catch up with you guys later this week, man. I'll let you boys. Peace.